In today's solo episode, I want to talk about one learning tip in particular. I have hundreds, but this is at the very tippy top, and it just so happens to be the same thing that Tony Robbins talks about as his number one learning tip as well. Not that I'm comparing myself to Tony Robbins. The guy is a true legend. Love him or hate him. He has done some incredible things, and perhaps it's just a coincidence that we have the same number one learning tip, and that's immersion. Now, a lot of teachers are ineffective for one main reason, and it keeps most of us from self-learning as well, and that's the lack of immersion. Now, I've been researching the best ways to learn for the past 20-some years, and universe willing, I'll be spending many more. But the problem, or at least part of the problem, with figuring all of this out is that the answer is always individual. And that's why one-to-one coaching can never be beat. If you're working with a sports team, being able to pull someone aside and just one-to-one give them feedback that helps them improve is going to make the overall team better. And one of the things that's tough in the world of social media and online education is it's really hard to scale the ability to coach people one-to-one. Now, there are many claims for the ultimate learning hack, things like recall, repetition, chunking, and SMART goals, but these don't come anywhere close to this really valuable learning strategy. Essentially, most of us fail to learn because we approach a new skill or a subject in small, spaced out learning moments. I've been trying to crochet, and I've been learning to draw off and on. I've made some music here and there over the years. Every now and again, I'll pick up a hook and dabble with making a blanket, pull out a pencil and a sketch pad and doodle a bit, or mess around with lyrics, playing piano, creating tracks in Logic Pro. And in all of these areas, I suck pretty bad. And that's okay. Activities like this simply fill some unicorn space for me, that few minutes a day that I can just tune out my thoughts, engage in a mindful hobby, and it's just for fun. There's no real big goal. So in that case, it is not immersion that I'm focused on. Now, let's be honest, immersion is a strategy that's been around for as long as learning has, basically. So there isn't a lot of creativity to it, but like a lot of good advice, if you want to get in shape, it's pretty simple. Do some exercise, get good sleep, eat healthy, drink a lot of water. It's pretty much it. So like any good advice, it's simple. Yet its potency in accelerating learning and transformation is unmatched. It is simply the best. Basically, immersion is the opposite of passive learning, becoming obsessed and focused with finding feedback on your abilities as soon and as much as possible. Diving so deep into the practice that the intensity brings about rapid change. And this is how I felt with things like football, fitness, writing, teaching, parenting, and podcasting. If I did actually want to learn to crochet or draw for real, then I would do as much as I could quickly and get as much feedback as possible. And this is why Tony Robbins workshops are delivered in a very intensive 3 full-day schedule, because he sets his own example with learning when it comes to life coaching and neuro-linguistic programming. And it goes all the way back to when he was first starting out wanting to be a coach. Long before he wrote the book Awaken the Giant Within, he dove really deep into learning how to shift our minds. He became absolutely obsessed with every possible resource, mentor, and experience that he could that would help him learn about personal growth. And then once he became a successful coach, he shifted his sights to business and finance. And all of these results speak for themselves. Tony Robbins has helped millions of people, and he owns over 100 companies. So if you're serious about improving a skill or a learning goal, make immersion your compass. Surround yourself with taking action on the biggest priorities, and when you need more information, surround yourself with podcasts, books, workshops, and mentors with more expertise than you. But please take note that I said, when you need more information. This is what we call just-in-time learning. Easy to remember because my name's in it, but the idea that you learn when you need something or when it's super convenient because you're on a long walk, you're on a commute, and so you might as well learn a little bit more of what you're trying to become an expert in. But in all other times, you should actually be taking action and then seeking fast contextual feedback that's specific to your growth and just keep going. Understanding this immersion is the reason why I have been pretty successful at coaching myself. I have a knack for putting my thumb on the pulse of what people need, identifying the most valuable area to close a gap, and keeping you focused on that while providing immediate feedback, adjustments, and then moving on to the next thing as soon as we've reached essentially a critical stage of success in that specific area. Anytime I've had the opportunity to coach high school sports, we've been able to go from a very underrated team with fairly low expectations from fellow coaches, teachers, parents, and students, and have that team be what everyone else considered overachieving. But the reason that we did that was because we were able to focus on the things that would lead to exponential gains and pretty much only focus on those instead of spreading ourselves thin in trying to get decent at a bunch of areas. So in coaching, let's say a volleyball team, there's passing, there's the ability to set, the ability to hit, there's rotations, there's a lot of defensive things, and there's serving. If you notice that the majority of times that you lose or you lose points, it's because of your inability to serve, then spend about 80% of your time working on serving until that gets to the point where it feels like it won't be as much of a liability, and then just figure out what's the next most important thing and triple down on that as well. Now, it's clear how immersion makes some anecdotal sense, but there's also science to it. Language education is probably the easiest example. I personally sucked at French, even though I tried hard for over 20 years, both in school and on my own, and lived in a French-speaking city from the age of 1 to 6, yet I still wasn't really able to speak or read French. How is that possible? I was quote-unquote learning, but there was not any immersion. Now, someone like Benny Lewis, who hosts a blog called Fluent in 3 Months, shares that immersing yourself in learning the language is a game changer. When you jump fully into sink or swim, everything will improve. Your comprehension, proficiency, cultural understanding, and even how you think. The brain thrives on rich, contextual inputs. Context and obsession leads to faster wiring in the brain, and so if you can dive deeper into immersion, you want to learn French, just go hang out in France for a while, watch some movies where you don't listen to them in English, you have both the French subtitles and the French language, start reading labels only in French, try and have conversations with people where they create a constraint to only speak to you in French. Do whatever you can to immerse yourself in the actual language. Now, speaking of science, why does immersion work so well? Simply put, it creates a relentless learning cycle. You have rapid experiences, reflections, efforts, and feedback, and then more experiences. And the brain's neuroplasticity, the changes in new pathways and connections, they accelerate when there are fewer distractions. The closer that you can get to having zero distractions, the faster that all of your learning cells can hyper-focus. And if nothing else, it really is an incredible feeling to learn something new for like 4 or 5 days straight, all day, every day, with full immersion. And that's an experience that we should all have every now and again in our life, at least once every couple years. go into a full period of immersion, learning a new skill, and have that true sense of exponential growth and making connections. But how do you immerse yourself? There's a few step-by-step things that can take you beyond just the common sense of, hey, surround yourself with a thing. So the first one is to go all in. Pursue a new skill or topic with as much focus time and energy as possible, and you want to triangulate your resources. Like I was saying earlier, don't waste practice time, but when you need more information, or if it's convenient, add podcasts and audiobooks. So during things like a walk, a commute, doing chores, they will efficiently add information or reminders to what you're already learning. You can stage your environment. This is kind of like atomic habits when it comes to habit stacking or queuing. Put things that help you learn closer and remove as much friction as possible. A hilarious but amazing example is Ronda Rousey hanging objects from her ceiling by string that if she forgets they're there, she has to dodge them to practice a little bit intrinsically and in her home the ability to dodge punches. Connect with communities. So while you're learning, perhaps on your own even, you can still join and interact with groups, forums, or take lessons with other people that are learning similar skills or topics. I always say that from day one, you should have 3 different relationships with someone in that skill set. So someone who can teach you, someone that you can compete and push, and then someone that you teach. The most important and 5th thing here is focused practice. None of this matters if you don't actually feel immersed in the practice. So create specific learning goals and take action on practicing with deep, mindful focus as much as possible. Immersion doesn't happen as well if we don't have quality of practice before quantity of practice. Raise your weaknesses. So like the example I gave of the volleyball team focusing on serving for a period of time, figure out your biggest area for growth and change that arc of that ability, which will change your overall arc much faster than anything else you could do. Teach what you learn. So document the process publicly if you want, or at least privately, and spend some time teaching others right away. Don't wait until you're an expert. This quote unquote expert stage never really comes. And we don't only teach because we feel that we're so much further along than other people. It's oftentimes more valuable for ourselves and others to teach when we're a beginner too, because we're that much more connected to what it feels like to be starting out. And finally, pivot or embrace the journey. Learning for the sake of learning is the main value, and that's fine. But if you get bored and you want to immerse yourself in something else, go for it. If you do want to keep building that skill or topic, remember that immersion is a shortcut, but it doesn't mean it will be easy. If you want to succeed long term, it will require patience and persistence, especially, and this is kind of interesting, the better you get, the more work it will take to continue to level up. The choice is yours. Abandon ship, try something new, or keep going. If you're enjoying it and it's bringing you true value, then keep fighting through, focus on being resilient and patient. But if it's feeling like it's not for you anymore, then make a pivot. Choose another skill or topic and immerse yourself there. And that's all I got for today. The fact that Tony Robbins and I have the same #1 learning tip. If you want to thrive when it comes to learning a skill or understanding a topic better, immerse yourself as early and as much as you can. This is something that just cannot be talked about enough. I'm sure I'll double down on it in the book I'm working on because it helps with learning anything that we want to learn in life. How to have better relationships, how to improve our wellness goals, or how to play the guitar. All of the how-tos. Immersion is the main step that we need to take. I appreciate you all so much, and I really love when you ask questions. So keep them coming. Fire us DMs, replies, or comments anywhere at Just Keep Learning. Until the next time, all the best, and remember, just keep learning.